excited to get started here, kick us all off with a nice overview of what's going on in Vegas, which is a lot. We have probably 3 times as much stuff we want to say as time we have to say it. So we'll go ahead and get started here, and then we'll try to leave a good amount of time for questions at the end. So I'm Catie Dixon. I am Bisnow's managing editor. I specialize exclusively in commercial real estate as my coverage area. I'm also Gary 2020 president, so always nice to be back with all of you guys. We have 2 people with us today, one who's more of a commercial real estate expert and one who's more of a residential, but they have a lot of overlap. It should be a great conversation. So right next to me here is Barber. He's executive vice president with JLL in Las Vegas. He specializes in tenant representation, agency leasing, and investment sales of office properties. Nick has been a licensed Nevada broker for 19 years, representing more than 350 clients on over 1,000 transactions, valued in excess of $1 billion. He represents approximately 952,000 square feet of office products and numerous tenant rep clients. He is an SIOR designee and a member of the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks. Thank you for being with us, Nick. And then we have Zanganeh on the end there. He's managing partner of the agency, a brokerage firm serving clients and supporting agents in Las Vegas, Henderson, and the surrounding valley. Zar specializes in luxury real estate and new developments. Over 20% of his business is off-market referral. Originally from Marbella, Spain, Zar had an international upbringing in France, Orange County, and Los Angeles. Destined for the world of real estate, he started working as an assistant to a real estate broker in high school, fell in love with the industry, and never left. So, Las Vegas, lots and lots of things here. So I pulled a couple stats to start us off. There's a May 29th report from Yardi that ranks Las Vegas as the 8th most active real estate market in the United States. From 2013 to 2022, the city built 25 million square feet of industrial, 3.2 million square feet of office, 5.7 million square feet of retail, and permitted 19,000 single-family units and 5,600 apartment units. It has been one of the hottest home markets in the country, but now this year, everything turned. Now it's one of the slowest and one of the lowest for rent growth. So we have a lot to talk about there. That'll be one of our main focuses for sure. Economic diversification, Vegas is still one of the lowest in the country, but it is steadily increasing. Obviously, sports is a big part of that, and that is where we're going to start. The Nevada legislature wrapped up at midnight, and I don't know if you've all seen the alert, but go ahead and tell us the big news from that.
Yeah, so the bill for the A's was essentially put on pause until the special session is called in by the governor. They did have to, by law, adjourn at midnight last night. There was 3 bills that impact commercial real estate. One, the most public, that being of the A's and the tax district that they're going to create for the stadium on the Tropicana site, which will be about 9 acres. There was 2 other bills that impact commercial real estate. One being tax credits that the state was going to give Sony to bring 2 movie studios here for production. Those 2 sites are located in South Summerlin, in land that's owned by Howard Hughes Corporation, and the other one on the UNLV Tech Park, which is on Durango in the 215. Those 2 particular areas are kind of ground zero for commercial real estate development when it comes to office, multifamily, and single-family residential, along with retail. And then the third one being, there's going to be a transition from a number of kind of dilapidated, rundown state buildings here in the city, where the governor's office is going to buy approximately 750,000 square feet of single-user office product, pretty close to the airport. It's been owned and operated by Thomas & Mack, which is a local development company here. That portfolio is about 1.5 million square feet in Caron Airport Center, and right now it's not doing very well from an office occupier standpoint. It's probably 40 to 50% occupied. The state office would buy approximately 750,000 square feet, and over a period of a couple of years, they would buy it in tranches, and then they would move local state operations into those buildings. So those 3 items did not get the necessary votes, so it's going to be pushed to a special session. My guess is that everybody is going to stay until that special session takes place, and they'll end up having a vote fairly quickly.
And you said obviously no one knows, but it's looking pretty good for all 3 of
I think two of the three are looking very good. The A's being the top of the list, everybody's behind it. It's really favorable for the taxpayers when you compare it to what we gave the Raiders, and when you compare it to many of the other stadiums that have been developed over the last 20 years that require public funding. It's a very favorable bill for the locals within the state and within the county. So I feel pretty good about the A's one getting passed. I don't know, I don't have enough knowledge about the movie, the Sony bill, and how that's trending, but it does have two really strong landowners behind it that I think will argue a pretty good case as to why it needs to come. And the unique thing about the governor's wanting to purchase all of the buildings in the McCarran Airport Center is they did a pretty comprehensive analysis of what it would cost to fix the buildings they have here in town, and it's way more expensive to fix their existing buildings than to buy some of the buildings that they would relocate to. So I do think that one will get passed too.
All right, and before we hop off of the A's, let's talk a little bit. I know, Nick, you and your partner will be some brokers of record on this deal.
Yeah, our local shop will be correct. Yeah.
Right. So both of you, and I know Zara, I'm sure you have thoughts on this as well. What would the A's coming to the Strip mean for the city as a whole?
It's huge for Las Vegas. I mean, we've become one of the sport capitals of the country right now. We've had so many different teams join us since the NHL came to Las Vegas, Formula One, the Raiders. We've relocated so many players. We created a relocation package when the NHL first announced that they were having an expansion team in Las Vegas. We recreated that same relocation package for the now Las Vegas Raiders. The owner of the team is building an excess of $25 million home in one of the developments our company represents out in Henderson. And we have about 8 different players with homes under construction right now. We've got players who are on their second and third homes. But what it's done for our economy and the amount of visitors and tax dollars that it brings to the Las Vegas market is huge. So I think another team is only going to benefit our market even more.
Yeah, no, I mean look, we've got a team in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're looking good. I don't want to jinx it. It's been incredible, the growth that we've had. I grew up here 25 years ago. All it was like, you couldn't even have a convention talking about fantasy sports here 10, 12 years ago. And now, if you look at every advertisement for major sports, they're all sponsored by Caesars or by DraftKings. I mean, DraftKings just built a huge 75,000 square foot office project in the southwest part of town because there's just so much money behind sports gambling. And so you put the two together, it's a natural fit. And who doesn't want to come to Vegas to watch their team play or just come out for an event? We've got the Super Bowl this year, and it's almost like that's getting glossed over because of the fact that we have F1. F1, it seems like, is getting more attention than the Super Bowl. It's been really fun the last couple of years, and I think it's just going to get better.
I saw a study that said a couple of years ago, sports was the number 7 reason that someone would come to Vegas, and now it's 2. So definitely jumping really quickly, yeah. All right, well, let's jump to housing. You want to talk about population and the market, affordability, all sorts of stuff. So Zara, we'll kick off with you. Give some of your high level of what's going on in the housing market right now.
Yeah, I mean, a report just came out a couple days ago from the local association of realtors that the numbers for the last 60 days shows that the market is up another 3%. And it's just 8% above the record high we've experienced.
Is that number of sales, number of home sales?
That's the dollar, the median home price. The median home price is 3% higher than it was at this time last year and 8% below the highest we've had in history of the Las Vegas real estate housing market. So I think sales are looking phenomenal considering how much interest rates have gone up and all the other issues we're experiencing. We used to have the highest record for homes sold over $10 million, and that number was not something worth bragging about. We had one $10 million sale on average every 18 months in this market. Now we're seeing one about every month in Las Vegas. We've had 5 of them so far this year, and we have over 30 homes over $20 million currently under construction, which is a huge number for this market. But we're seeing these ultra-luxury communities and ultra-luxury homes become the norm in this marketplace. And we have more and more millionaires and billionaires relocating culture and the business-friendly environment that Las Vegas is creating, whether it's sports teams, whether it's the movie industry, or just the political and business-friendly environment that our market creates here in Las Vegas, married along with the unsafe environment and the high crime that other markets, especially our number one feeder market, which is Southern California, followed by Northern California, the Pacific Northwest, places like Florida, are experiencing. It's feeding our market more and more. And now we're diversifying away from just hospitality being our number one industry to the medical school that we have, to the sports industry, to tech, whether it's in Reno or Southern Nevada. Businesses are being more and more attracted to it. I think there was an article in Entrepreneur magazine earlier this year that said they surveyed 200 CEOs and they asked them, where would you relocate your company and yourself if you could? And the top place that they suggested or all answered was Nevada.
Did you have something you wanted to say? No? Okay, well, how about the flip side of that? How about affordability for everyone that can't buy a $20 million home?
We're still extremely affordable to live in Las Vegas. I mean, our average home price is still under $450,000, and that's great compared to some of our neighbors. I mean, the California market, the LA market is so unaffordable for most people, and there's so many challenges. Our average home is only about 10 years old, and 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2-car garage home, single-family home is still very affordable compared to all the neighboring areas that people are coming from.
How about renting?
Rental prices were going up. I mean, in the last 5 years, they went up over 30%. And the last year, they've been very stagnant because they went up so much. Rental prices are relatively neutral. They are pretty affordable compared to the rest of the country. But for the Vegas market, which I believe was undervalued for a long time, they finally come up. The good news is for tenants that they stopped going up. But we are in an unusual market where we have more tenants than we have homeowners. That has a lot to do with our industry being hospitality and being a very tip-driven industry that we have here. So a lot of people report the income that they receive on paper, not necessarily the cash tips that they're collecting. So by the time they go to qualify for a mortgage, they're not necessarily showing everything that they're taking home, and they don't necessarily qualify for what they were accustomed to living in. So we, along with the transient market and the heavy amount of construction that we have in Las Vegas, we have a lot more tenants. 50% of all the homes we sell under $500,000 are still to investors, mostly California landlords, who appreciate the landlord-friendly rights that Nevada landlords have here. We're able to file a pay or quit notice to a tenant if they haven't paid their rent after 5 days of being delinquent. And the termination of a lease is very easy in Las Vegas if you want to terminate your lease with a tenant who's not paying. Versus other states, I mean, there's places in the East Coast, there's places like Chicago where you can't evict a tenant all of winter. We hear nightmares from clients who have 13, 14 months of not being able to collect rent or having their homes go into foreclosure because they're not able to collect rent and they're not able to make their mortgage. We've never experienced any of those things here. That's why you have huge hedge funds who are buying thousands of homes out in the Las Vegas market. Unfortunately, the flip side of that is sometimes the average mom and pop investor is being priced out when they're looking to add 1 or 2 more homes to their portfolio of real estate.
I think you had some thoughts on cost of living and.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that comes up a lot with the groups that we represent that are in multi-markets and they're doing regional searches. The number one issue we constantly run up against, Catie, like we talked about, is just our talent pool is depleted. We have to import talent. DraftKings had to do that. They brought a number of their tech people from Boston. There's a reason why we lose some of these large relocations to Texas and the East Coast being Salt Lake. It doesn't have as much to do with cost of living as it does with just the fact that we have 2 major universities in our entire state, and they're pretty far away from each other. So we have to import talent. We have to be able, people like Czar and myself have to be able to tell the story of why Nevada and why Las Vegas, and I think we do a pretty good job of telling it. But ultimately, it's still our biggest issue. Our education ranks at the bottom of other major cities. I think if we're not at the bottom, we're usually in the 2 or 3 lowest. And very quickly, and we have the fourth or fifth largest school district in the country, and so it makes it very difficult to maintain. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is that a lot of the people who move here that can, they put their kids in private school, and so we tend to see those numbers continue to dwindle. From a cost of living standpoint, we are still below Denver, Salt Lake, Phoenix, but we're rapidly approaching them, and I do think we will surpass them because of the fact that we're running out of land and our construction costs are going through the roof. As you fly in, we talked about this, as you fly into Nevada, you're like, gosh, there's so much land, but the BLM, the federal government owns 90% of it between here and Reno, and even though there's federal land use bills that our legislation is trying to get passed, we then run into restrictions with other things that make our construction costs go through the roof. So it's a problem that we're trying to tackle, but it's a problem that I think we're seeing just about everywhere.
Yeah, I was hoping you would touch on some of those land restrictions. The other thing you're talking about is construction costs. I would love for one of you to say what you were saying to me earlier about some of that, the ability to build tall, or the inability to build tall.
Yeah, Nick mentioned office space. In residential, we stay below 6 floors. Up to 6 floors, we can go frame and stucco, which is much less expensive to build than steel and concrete. That's why you don't see any more high-rise buildings. Right now, our price per square foot is still below the cost of construction for high-rise, which can get up to $1,000 plus per square foot. We're still selling luxury high-rise buildings at $400 to $800 a square foot for the best high-rise buildings, and to replace those buildings today, we're talking about $1,200 a square foot plus to build them. So if anybody would be building them, they'd be building them at a loss. We have one project that is now going to be happening. It's a Four Seasons residential project, and they're talking about building that selling that for $1,800 to $2,000 plus per square foot because of all the amenities and the branding, the hotel, and the location that they have for that project. And that's the first residential high-rise building that is going to be coming along in many years that we've seen. And the only way we're going to be able to have affordable housing in the near future is to have condominium projects. Unfortunately, right now, they're all short buildings for the cost alone. But of all 50 states in the country, we have the least amount of privately owned land and the most amount of federal land. Unfortunately, most of it is unbuildable because it is restricted, it's national parks, and some of it is areas like Area 51 that will just not be buildable for many different reasons, many of them that we might not ever know about.
All right, let's pivot to office, to that corporate driver.
Yeah, office. Everybody loves to talk about office these days. It usually clears the room. So Vegas for office is actually bucking the national trend. We're, somewhere, depending on what report you read, we're somewhere between 9.7 to 11% vacant, which is really, really robust. We've got about 300,000 square feet in development under construction, I should say. Over the last 4 years, we delivered about 1.5 million square feet, much of it being Class A. Actually, I think almost all of it was Class A for Vegas. The way we identify Class A might be different than San Francisco or New York. Most of it's been in the Southwest. Majority of it's been, along the 215 Beltway between, call it Buffalo to Summerlin Parkway, and it's done really, really well. However, the tides are changing. The cost right now to build from shell a tenant improvement, where it was a year ago about $125 a foot, we're seeing now Class A development tenant improvements going for about $240 a foot. And most landlords are capped out in our market somewhere between $75 and $80 a foot. So that means that the tenant is writing a check for that delta on top of paying $48 rent, which for us is traditionally, we've always been a $36 to $40 full service gross market. To go above 48, and now hearing that some landlords are even pushing 60, it becomes difficult. We're getting to a point where it's going to be very, very costly to build out Class A. So I think we're going to see a bit of a pause over the next 5 years on development. Our absorption's been really strong, but there's been a slowdown because the cost of land, the cost of construction, and the tenant demand overall just hasn't been that strong. So office is doing well in certain submarkets, And then in other submarkets, like our downtown submarket, and then right behind us over here at Youth Center, it's not doing as well. They're older buildings, they're difficult to get to, no one lives around them. So we've been a bit in front of the game from a return to work standpoint because we traditionally are a suburban office market. And so the number one thing is for office occupiers, employers, and employees is how close is it to my house? How quickly can I get to it? Average drive time for someone to get from their house to their office in our market is about 18 minutes. And that's, when you look at a national average, we're way ahead of that. And that has a lot to do with the 215 Beltway and all the offices that were built along that.
Good, thank you. Let's talk water. So obviously, Lake Mead, Colorado River, how much, and new code restrictions that are all in place. So how much is that affecting development and corporate interest here?
Water's a really hot topic. I spoke about it recently in Arizona. We keep discussing it here. In the last 10 years, our population has grown roughly 19%. Our water usage has not changed because of all the conservation we've done in the last 10 years. Nevada was really ahead of the conservation game long before everybody else started thinking about it. Arizona is just now starting to enforce any water restrictions. This week, I think they made some headlines because they're restricting or paused some real estate developments due to the underground water that they're tapping out of. Arizona has underground water and they use Lake Mead water. Nearly all of our water comes from Lake Mead, but we only use 1.8% of the Lake Mead water that is assigned to us. The rest of it all goes to California, 6 other states, and Mexico. So we use less than 2% of the water that is coming from the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead in Nevada. And that was decided almost 100 years ago. So we will need to at some point renegotiate that. But we have used the same amount of water with the huge population growth we've had. The conservation is mind-blowing that we do here, and the recycling of the water is cutting edge. We recycle over 99% of the water that is used indoors. There's some statistics from the Nevada Water Authority saying that if we have every single faucet at every single hotel property on the strip running at the same time, none of that water would be wasted. The only water that is wasted is water that we use outdoors, and that's where the majority of the conservation efforts are used. We have a lot of lawns that are now being transferred into synthetic grass. We have things like the Bellagio water fountains or the Venetian canals. Those are all from old wells that were here long before these hotels were here. It's when the Desert Inn or the Dunes golf courses were here, and they're using what little underground water that we do have from the old wells that were here from decades ago. And now we're starting to use enforcement on commercial buildings and HOAs, which they will be using they'll be removing any non-functional grass areas to conserve even more water. Some of the other new restrictions that we've had is we'll be restricting pool sizes. That was just enforced about 6 months ago, so any new permits that are pooled, the pools will have to be under 600 square feet, which is a huge issue for some of the big houses that are being built. We have some homes that are going to be in excess of 20,000 square feet, and some people are saying that's an issue for the elite only, because on a home that's a couple of acres and 30,000 square feet, a 600 square foot pool looks like a bathtub. There's a few pool builders who are suing the state or seeing if there's a way to pay to get that restriction removed. So we'll see how that goes. But we have a lot of great benefits. I personally removed almost half an acre of real grass from my backyard and got a huge refund check from the Water Authority for that. And it's been a great benefit to me. But I think we don't have much to worry about. I know that the Water Authority here has a 7-year plan in case of a terrorist attack on the Hoover Dam. They've made arrangements with other states to bring in water. They have water stored, and we have the capacity to tap into the bottom of Lake Mead to get water out in case of an emergency so that the state does not go without water. It is a serious concern. It's something that comes up when we're looking at houses with folks who are coming in from out of state, and that is one of the questions they bring up. But there's multiple videos, there's multiple articles put out by the Water Authority, and once people are educated a little bit more about it, it's never something that comes up for a second or third conversation.
Yeah, you gotta go above beyond the headlines. Zara did a great job of explaining that. And the bulk of the use right now is being done by agriculture in Arizona and Southern California. Foreign countries are teaming up with farmers and buying their land and just getting unfettered, unaccessed, use of water. And a lot of the crop that they're growing, we don't actually utilize here in the country. So I think those things need to be looked at a lot more in depth. There's some other things from a commercial standpoint that are impacting water use. One being, the industrial market. Our industrial market is incredibly robust right now. We have 1.5% vacancy. We've delivered 15 million square feet. I think 10 million of it right now under construction, and there's 30 million planned. They pre-leased 50% of it. The tenant demand is strong, but one thing that they're trying to do is make all these large warehouses, whether they're 3PL, third-party logistics, R&D, storage. They're trying to have the developer to convert their swamp coolers to HVAC. So to cool a 1 million square foot Amazon fulfillment center is going to be incredibly expensive over saving a minimal amount of water to utilize it from swamp coolers. So they're still working on that, trying to figure out a workaround that shows that the cost to actually power those things is going to be more impactful on the environment than it would be to use the water for swamp coolers.
Are you seeing anyone deciding not to come, whatever property type, because of the water restrictions or the code?
No, it's the least of our conversations. The bulk of it has to do with town and education goal.
All right, we've got a couple minutes so we can do some questions. Anyone have questions for these guys? Jack.
So I'm from California. I think I read that the California legislature appropriated something like $280 million to rebuild the Oakland A's stadium in Oakland. What is the status now? Is it a done deal, or is it still a competition between Oakland and Las Vegas?
From what I heard, there's been a lot of mudslinging between the mayor and the A's, but the mayor said we'd be willing to reopen the negotiations. As a local, someone who's lived here I'm originally from Southern California, but someone who's lived here almost his entire life, I hope they're not just using us to posture and go back to Oakland and get a better deal. I really hope that that's not the case, but in business, nothing surprises me. So I don't believe that it's a dead deal. However, if the legislation passes and we offer them those tax incentives, from what I've been told, they're going to be coming here. They will be relocating. I don't know if you can mend the fence. We outdraw the A's at the Aviators Stadium, by 50 to 60% for a AAA team. Maybe if they build a new stadium in Oakland, they can get the fans back, but it's going to take a lot of time to kind of mend those fences. So the answer is I just don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think that they're coming.
Aldo?
10 years ago, I guess Zappos moved downtown, but to me, it feels stalled, or what's happening down there?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the promise realized?
Yeah, so our company, JLL, was actually pretty heavily involved in that site selection. My business partner, who's not here today, he's out of the country, but he kind of spearheaded that relocation. And it was Tony Hsieh's vision of the downtown redevelopment, where he was going to bring Zappos there and bring a new synergy. I think some of it was realized from a food and beverage, hospitality, and just overall entertainment. There's just no places to live. There's basic services downtown. They're just not there. They're starting to pop up with Symphony Park developing a number of apartment units, but there's still no grocery store close, there's no medical services close. And so I think what happened was while it was a cool place and a cool vibe for people to work at, ultimately everybody lives still in the suburbs. And so it just didn't get realized as this new transformable, mecca, because our city had urban sprawl. And it is stalled, yes, definitely.
A little bit of both, yeah. I agree with what Nick said. I'm a big downtown fan. We just built an office building for our company very close to Zappos. Tony Hsieh was a friend and somebody I spent a lot of time with. We have about 1,200 units, very close to it. We relocate a lot of Zappos employees. But to Nick's point, the biggest issue is we have lots of cool, trendy restaurants, a lot of chefs who work under celebrity chefs on the strip go out there and open up their own restaurants, and you can eat the same quality food for a quarter of the price. But we have no grocery store, we have no gas station. The new medical school is right around the corner. We have tons of residents from the medical school now moving down there. We have tons of old houses that you don't really see in Vegas, houses that are 50, 60 years old now being renovated and people moving into them. But it's a quickly changing area, it's not changing fast enough. And with development not catching up as fast as it should, it's not moving too quickly, but it's definitely slowly moving.
Is there any discussion of the old casinos converting into residential?
Definitely not. The casinos are doing phenomenal. Circa just opened its first multi-billion-dollar casino that has opened downtown, and it's doing amazing. And if you see the gaming numbers, I think it's 18 months in a row, gaming is up, and the downtown casinos are making a great profit. In fact, they're reinvesting a ton of money in putting more money into the casinos. Tomorrow I'm going to another ribbon cutting at the Plaza Casino for all the money they're reinvesting. They're putting more restaurants, pickleball courts, new gaming tables in all of those casinos. So the casinos are doing great there, and there's no reason to add housing to any of those.
All right, Catherine, we're out of time, I will let you have it.
Well, you mentioned the DraftKings office, bringing in folks from Boston to kind of staff. Is that, how much of that kind of the competitiveness element, the idea of not having a workforce here, I mean, how much is that, how much of time do you spend thinking about that?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, we're primarily a JLL in Las Vegas. We're primarily I don't want to say this negatively because we have to facilitate it, but we're primarily an inbound market. And so a lot of the requirements we get are generated from Northern California or back east. And so we get to facilitate those, and a lot of times the employer is asking us where am I going to pull from, and we show them a map of California and a map of Arizona, and we try to show them what all the benefits are of living here in Las Vegas and Nevada, and hopefully they can then be a good mouthpiece to then recruit the talent to come out here. DraftKings did a great job. I think that Caesars and William Hill combining has done a great job. Tech gaming is really, really booming, and what better place to live than the Mecca? And so we are seeing that drive the economy, but it's still a problem. We don't have enough universities to pull from, and so we have to look to import talent. Hopefully we won't have to look to import water.
And we do have great magnet schools now. We have some phenomenal private schools. I sit on the board of a great private school, and you are allowed to get vouchers from the public school system to have your kids go to magnet schools. So the education system is not great in Las Vegas, but our property taxes are so low that whenever we are speaking to people who believe they might not be able to afford private school, when they do figure out their cost of living, they realize actually they could either apply for a magnet school or they actually could afford a private school for their kids because of the money they're saving in housing and property taxes and the fact that we don't have, state income tax in Nevada.
All right, unfortunately, that is our time, so thank you, Nick, thank you, Czar, this is fantastic.